What if I told you that the worst day of someone's life became the foundation for the most satisfying revenge story you'll ever hear? Buckle up, because this tale of family betrayal and ultimate justice will leave you speechless. You're about to graduate college. You're the first person in your entire family to achieve this milestone. Your hands are trembling as you clutch that diploma folder, 4 years of blood, sweat, and tears all leading to this single moment. But then, your own parents turn your greatest achievement into your most humiliating nightmare. That's exactly what happened to Sarah, and what she did next will blow your mind. Sarah had worked her tail off through college. We're talking multiple jobs, skipping meals, pulling all-nighters just to keep her grades up. Her family. They weren't exactly the supportive type. In fact, they were the complete opposite. But Sarah still invited them to her graduation ceremony, hoping just maybe they'd show up and actually be proud of her for once. Big mistake. As she waited behind that thick velvet curtain, heart pounding with anticipation, she could hear her father's voice cutting through the crowd like a knife. "Don't look so proud," he slurred. "We paid for that piece of paper. You just partied your way through." Her mother laughed along, not even bothering to lower her voice. "She looks ridiculous in that gown, like a penguin trying to act important." Can you imagine? Your own parents, at your graduation, talking about you like that? But Sarah pushed through. When her name was called, she walked onto that stage with her head held high. The spotlight hit her face, her classmates cheered, her professors beamed with pride. This was her moment. Finally. And then her father stood up. "No daughter of mine deserves applause for wasting my money," he roared across the entire auditorium. The whole place went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. But he wasn't done. This man, this so-called father, actually climbed onto the stage in front of hundreds of people and slapped his own daughter across the face. The microphone caught everything. The sound echoed through the auditorium. Sarah stumbled, nearly dropping her diploma. People gasped. Someone screamed for security. And her mother? She stood up and laughed. Actually laughed. She needed that, she said. Maybe now she'll remember who gave her everything. Now most people would have broken down right there. Most people would have run off that stage in tears. But Sarah. She did something incredible. She slowly picked up her fallen graduation cap, stepped up to that microphone, and said 6 words that changed everything. "You didn't give me everything. You gave me trauma, and now you've given me freedom." Then she walked off that stage like an absolute boss. Security dragged her parents out while the entire crowd buzzed with shock and disbelief. Cell phones were recording everything. But Sarah didn't look back. Not once. After the ceremony, her professors surrounded her. Students hugged her. The dean himself told her she'd handled that situation with more dignity than he'd seen in years. But inside, Sarah was crumbling. She spent the next week hiding from her parents' calls and text messages. They sent dozens of them. Some angry, some manipulative. "You embarrassed us. You should apologize. We sacrificed for you. Your sister would have been grateful." Ah yes, the sister. The golden child who dropped out of college in her second semester, got a nose job on mommy and daddy's dime, and never worked a real job in her life. But somehow, she was the perfect daughter while Sarah was the ungrateful mistake. But here's the thing. Sarah wasn't broken. Not anymore. Because while her parents were busy humiliating her, she had been planning something. Something they never saw coming. Sarah disappeared for a while. She blocked her parents, deleted her social media, and left town without telling anyone. She moved in with her college roommate Hannah, whose family had treated her more like a daughter than her own parents ever had. For months, Sarah worked 3 jobs. Freelance editing at night, waitressing on weekends, and running admin for a startup during the day. She didn't complain because every hour she worked was bringing her closer to her master plan. You see, when Sarah was 16, her grandfather had quietly made her the secondary beneficiary of a long-term investment account. She had taken care of him when he was sick, fed him, managed his medications. Her parents, they barely visited. When he passed away 2 years into her college journey, Sarah rolled those funds into a trust account under legal supervision. Her parents had no idea this money even existed because Sarah never touched a single penny until now. With the trust funds and her own savings, Sarah did something absolutely genius. She bought her parents' house. Right out from under them. They had no clue it was in pre-foreclosure. Her father hadn't paid property taxes in over a year because he was too busy gambling. Her mother was still blowing money on spa days and paying her precious daughter's rent and car payments. When the house went to auction, Sarah placed the highest bid through a proxy company. Just like that, the home they constantly told her she'd never be good enough to inherit belonged to her. A week later, Sarah had the locks changed. And when her parents returned from a weekend spa getaway that they didn't even pay for themselves, they found themselves locked out of their own house. Sarah watched from her car across the street as her mother screamed into her phone and her father pounded on the door. Then she stepped out. "You might want to stop doing that," she said calmly. "It's considered trespassing now." Her mother's jaw hit the ground. Her father's hands curled into fists. "What the hell is this?" he barked. "I own this house," Sarah replied, holding up the deed. "And starting today, you don't." "You ungrateful brat," her mother shrieked. "After everything we gave you?" "You mean after everything you stole?" Sarah snapped back. "Like dignity, support, peace of mind. You mocked me, beat me in public, and still thought I'd hand you my life on a silver platter." Her father was turning purple with rage. "You can't do this. We raised you." "No," Sarah said coolly. "You raised your hands at me repeatedly. And now I've raised my credit score, my income, and your mortgage payment. So get off my property." They stood there absolutely stunned. Her mother burst into tears. Her father looked like he was about to explode. And just when Sarah thought they'd finally walk away, they pulled one last desperate card. "Well then," her mother hissed, "I hope you enjoy paying our pensions since they're tied to the house." Sarah smiled. "Actually, about those pensions. It turns out, when Sarah acquired the house, she discovered the retirement account was partially funded through the house's equity. When she bought it, she legally froze that equity account and redirected it into a family trust controlled by her. A clause in her grandfather's paperwork allowed the secondary beneficiary to transfer management in case of family dispute or abuse. All Sarah had to do was file evidence of the graduation incident, which she did with 3 high-quality videos submitted to the court. Now their pension withdrawals were blocked until a new trustee was approved. And since Sarah had power of attorney over her grandfather's trust, "You'll need to start applying for jobs," she whispered. "Maybe as janitors at my old school. I hear they're hiring." Both parents stood in the yard, faces completely drained of color. For the first time in Sarah's life, they were the ones who were powerless. "Have a nice life," Sarah said, unlocking the door. "And tell my sister the same. She just lost her rent sponsor too." Then she closed the door. Behind her, silence. In front of her, peace. Now, you might think they walked away quietly with their heads hung in shame. But people like Sarah's parents don't know humility. For weeks, she received angry voicemails, venomous text messages, even awkward calls from distant relatives calling her cruel and dramatic. They didn't know the full story. They never do. But Sarah wasn't in the business of explaining herself anymore. What she did next wasn't about vengeance. It was about healing what they had broken in her. She renovated the house, but not to live in it. She transformed it into something beautiful. Her childhood bedroom became a mini office. The living room became a counseling hub. The basement where she once hid from her father's temper now had shelves full of books, legal resources, and even a tea station. She called it the second start home. It became a safe space for young adults who had aged out of the foster system or were abandoned by toxic families after college. They got shelter, financial literacy lessons, resume help, therapy, everything Sarah once wished someone had offered her. When the local newspaper ran Sarah's story anonymously, donations started pouring in. Lawyers volunteered their services for free. Therapists reached out to help. Even one of her old professors came to offer workshops. And her parents? They tried to fight back. They hired a lawyer to regain access to the pension. It didn't go well. Sarah's lawyer showed the graduation video, the footage of her father hitting her on stage, her mother clapping. The judge didn't even let the case finish. The pension was permanently transferred to Sarah as trustee with one condition, that she use it for moral purposes consistent with the values of the original grantor. That was her grandfather. And he always said, "You don't build legacies on screams." Sarah used the money to buy another building and turned it into free housing for survivors of domestic abuse. One evening, after a support group ended, Sarah stepped outside and saw her parents standing at the edge of the street. They looked different now. Smaller. Tired. Even embarrassed. "We're homeless," her mother mumbled. Her father refused to meet her eyes. There was a long, heavy pause. "You built all this," her mother whispered, eyes darting to the center's glowing windows. "Yes," Sarah said calmly. "Using our money," her father grumbled. Sarah smiled. "No. Using what was left of your humanity, because that's all you ever gave me to work with." Silence again. Then came the question Sarah always knew would come. "Can we stay? Just for one night?" Sarah's breath caught. Her childhood self wanted to scream yes, to finally be accepted, to be good enough. But the woman she'd become had already made peace with never being their daughter again. "You're not on the list," she said gently but firmly. "This place is for people who've suffered." And she turned away. That night, Sarah sat in her office watching the security footage of them walking away into the cold. It should have hurt, but it didn't. Because she had turned the ugliest day of her life into the foundation of a future that wasn't built on shame or pain, but on purpose. The next morning, Sarah walked onto a stage again. Only this time, it wasn't to receive a diploma. It was to receive an award from the mayor's office for transforming pain into shelter. The audience gave her a standing ovation. In the front row, she saw Hannah, her roommate turned sister, wiping her eyes. This time, Sarah smiled without flinching. Because no one was there to slap it off her face. And that was her real graduation. Look, this story isn't just about revenge. It's about turning your pain into purpose. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most give us the greatest gift of all, the motivation to become everything they said we couldn't be. If this story moved you, hit that like button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And hey, if you know someone who needs to hear this today, share it with them. Sometimes we all need a reminder that we're stronger than we think.